Hello everybody and welcome to Ramp Reviews. I am back and I'm ready to do this very sexy, ultra-violent, category-free special video based on the 388 film premium releases that I've got, special editions who have been sold out recently, been heavily talked about. I'm talking about Erotic Ghost Story, Robotrix, and Story of Ricky. All three of these films have got kind of nice 5-star packaging. Everyone's been talking about these films since they got released, brand new 4K scans, lots of brand new extras, and I figured, you know what, after doing my kind of Naked Killer review, which a lot of people really responded quite nicely to, and people like my thoughts and opinions on this, probably the only category 3 film that I've actually really enjoyed and really got behind a little bit, I was curious and I figured, screw it, why not? I didn't purchase these movies. I managed to find kind of rental kind of services kind of thing, so I went out my way to basically go and rent them and kind of support the films in a little bit of way, but not diving into £225 per edition. And this would have cost me 75 quid to get all three of these versions on the kind of premium releases. And I've been tempted quite a few times in HMV, thinking, oh, I could just pick it up, or oh, that's a nice snazzy box set, that's a nice brand new cover artwork by Kung Fu Bob. But no, I will not do it. I will not be tempted by your fantastic artwork, Kung Fu Bob.
What do you say? Come on. Come on. Oh, come on. Yes.
I figured this would be a good opportunity to kind of talk about all three of these films in a really fun, creative video. A bit of detail, my thoughts and opinions. Won't necessarily be kind of heavy, kind of deep dive kind of reviews because, I'll leave that to some of the other guys, kind of the other channels that are doing more of these kind of specific videos. And to kind of explore a little bit why these movies are so popular or why they've become popular in the past kind of couple of months. Is it down to the releases? Is it down to these films have never had the chance to really been explored to a mass wide market? Some have been trapped on maybe VHS or kind of poor dubs or poor low quality, very similar to kind of the other kind of 88 films or Eureka releases. Category 3 is a very interesting kind of label for me. I've not really explored much of them. If you aren't familiar with the Category 3 label, basically it's a Hong Kong certification which gives you free range to do whatever you want onto that label. Typically it's known for doing kind of, unrated, fully nuded and sex sequences. That's kind of its mainly known for most of its kind of, run for the Category 3 label. Later on during the 90s, they started to incorporate more violence and more kind of blood gore and, body work and that kind of stuff, very kind of David Cronenberg kind of style body violence with, Story of Ricky going into that later on kind of thing. But Category 3 is a very interesting kind of label. It's kind of got a very specific types of movies, typically the ones you would expect to see, late night kind of TV. If anyone's watched the Hong Kong Blues channel, they explore Category 3 to the 9. They pick up all the Category 3 films. They're exploring a lot more of the kind of romantic comedies and the more kind of askew Hong Kong movies on the kind of DVD and Blu-ray releases. If you want to see more kind of, more of a positive, more of a kind of a more interesting kind of viewing glass for Category 3 titles, please check out Hong Kong Blues channel. Fantastic couple. They really dive deep into these kind of Blu-ray editions and their favourite moments and their favourite kind of sequences and the actresses involved, the directors, and what they thought, what they liked, what they didn't like kind of thing. And they are definitely a lot more open to these movies than I am for sure. But without further ado, let's dive into the 3 films, Erotic Ghost Story, Robotrix, and Story of Ricky. Let's go. First up we have is Erotic Ghost Story, directed by Lim Choi. I hope I'm saying that correctly, I'm terrible with pronunciations. This film was released in 1990. Funny enough though, it's from the same director as Story of Ricky, which we'll go on to do a year later within 1991, but I'll get to Story of Ricky in good time. This film, tits. Yeah, this is basically a softcore porn concept run a Golden Harvest budget. That's practically what the film is. It's very much a kind of soft remake and an influence by the American Western film The Witches of Eastwick by Jack Nicholson kind of thing, and you know, Face the Fantastic on stars, and you can definitely tell that for sure in terms of the story, and I think that makes it a little bit more kind of watchable compared to some of the other kind of category 3 films, because it has a story, but not really. It's basically just a guy that bangs 3 sisters for most of the film, and a lot of the other stuff in between is just a bit of, you know, I know, filler stuff. You know, you get somewhat of a background to these characters. They are kind of been around for thousands of years. They're sort of ghosts. They're, you know, kind of, you know, seen it all, done it all kind of thing. Been robbed by a lot of people, and you know, they get tricked by a demon and to basically sleeping with them. And yeah, that's the film. And a very kind of straight up NC-17 category 3 glorious nature of full frontal nudity sex sequences.
You had my curiosity, but now you have my attention.
The way I see Erotic Ghost Story, and the only way I can see it, is basically this is a very specific kind of category of films, which basically, from a time and a place where the internet really didn't exist, if I'm being absolutely honest. This is the type of film that, hey look, I'm going to watch a very saucy movie with a bit of, you know, Zulu Warriors magic, a bit of practical effects, a bit of kung fu in places, with a bunch of beautiful women that are having full frontal nudity and full frontal sex, without saying it's a porno in a sense. Yeah, hey look, I can put this on my shelf, it's not really a porno, it's a film, and it has a bit of kung fu and there's a bit of fighting in it kind of thing, and that kind of stuff. It's basically an excuse, and I feel like this film only really exists and really gets appreciated maybe in some aspects because he was released in the 90s, where, you know, kind of pornographic material wasn't really widely available yet. The internet was just on the cusp of kind of, you know, reaching its kind of audience. You know, there was a thing where like you can actually order kind of VHS kind of tapes and kind of have magazine subscriptions and all that kind of stuff. It comes from a very different type of place and a very different time, and I can only see it as that, really, if I'm being absolutely honest, because this isn't really a film. It's a concept that's wrapped around a kind of traditional type of Hong Kong movie, and I would say, I'm dare to say, would this film be as popular? Would this film have a 5-star release from 88 Films? All these kind of be highly respected in areas if it was just a Hong Kong movie? If it was a British movie, if it was an American film, would this have the same kind of treatment? Would this have the same kind of packaging, or kind of, you know, brand new artwork and brand new scans and lots of brand new extras? Would this have the same respect, I guess? Would this have the same type of audience if it was an American film? And I'm saying I will give it some credit. You know, it is well made to some extent kind of thing. It definitely has a very limited budget, and to be honest, it doesn't really stray too far from a couple of set locations, high art type of form of kind of pornography in that sense, and it definitely has its audience. Yeah, definitely not worth £25, definitely not worth the kind of premium release, but hey look, the fact that this film sold out almost immediately from 88 Film store on their official websites and Amazon, the fact it's out of print, and the fact it's worth so much money, and they had to re-release it almost immediately in a standard kind of 2-disc set, definitely shows there's an audience for this film. Definitely shows there's a lot of people out there. There's definitely a very specific generation of people that got something from this film. I know exactly what you got from it for sure, and I think 88 Films are literally just counting their money, just, you know, laughing away kind of thing. Yeah, Erotic Ghost Story, yeah, not for me. Yeah. Next up we have is Robotrix, also released in 1991. A lot of these films were released in the 90s for some reason. Erotic Ghost Story 1990, this film 1991, and Story of Ricky 1991 also. There seems to be just a lot of production in going on with category 3 kind of labelling. Directed by Jamie Lung Ken Ming, I hope I said that correctly. This guy's from films that I've never heard of, you know, mainly romantic comedies or kind of low-end kind of, you know, Hong Kong movies. Looking at his IMDb list, hasn't done a huge much, but he's done quite a few films, just a lot of movies, a lot of stars, you know, a lot of kind of straight to DVD kind of low budget end kind of movies, and I think this is his most famous one maybe from category 3 potentially. I'm not too sure, but Robotrix got a brand new kind of, you know, 4K release kind of thing. We have a 4K transfer on the kind of, you know, 88 Film premium editions. It's got a brand new artwork from Kung Fu Bob, which looks pretty goddamn good. And I was curious, and when I watched the film, I was like, what the hell did I just watch? I did do a kind of a take the piss kind of fan made kind of, you know, smutty kind of trashy trailer on my channel. Please go and check it out. I spent a lot of time on that. I thought it was really funny, despite not liking the film at all. it does have some moments that I think are just kind of pure, kind of late 80s, early 90s kind of sci-fi aspect that I find quite amusing. Robotrix, I don't understand it, if I'm being absolutely honest. It has, once again, very similar to kind of Erotic Ghost Story, being a kind of very much from this decade, being that kind of pay-per-view, very much that kind of rent VHS kind of style, saucy material that you get through the post, an excuse to be a movie. This goes the other way and goes, hey look, once we do a kind of a Terminator, Robocop, low budget, sci-fi robots, sexy robots, and play fun with ideas with that. The story for Robotrix, I'm going to try and explain it because the film doesn't really care about explaining it, is basically an evil scientist that feels wronged. He feels not appreciated within the kind of cybernetic kind of, you know, demonstration. There's a very early part of the film where basically all these kind of different companies are showing off their robots and their different styles, all very glorious, kind of late 80s, early 90s, kind of big macho guys, or just people in kind of metal suits and shit. It's terrible. It has its charm in places, I'll give it that. But he feels wronged and betrayed, so he kidnaps the son of a wealthy business person, and he transfers his mind over to a robot, very Terminator style kind of clothing and glasses and that kind of stuff. And what he wants, money or appreciation, and I don't really know. His motivation for the film is not really 100% clear. I don't know what exactly he wants from the film. The film is basically an excuse for these kind of other kind of sexy kind of robot engineers, and she basically kind of brings back this woman, this detective, this police officer that was killed in duty, and give her a robot kind of body. And the state-of-the-art kind of, you know, technology, these kind of two very capable, strong robot, sexy robot women kind of thing, you know, and the scientist involved with it. Their plan is to put themselves out there. They do this kind of prostitute kind of sequence which goes on for way too long. They go to nightclubs and they kind of dance away with men and women kind of thing, and one of the cops in the police force task force is assigned with them. All of them want to bang them, and most of the film is just them doing shenanigans and stuff to lure out this guy, which, funny enough, isn't in the film that much. The main thing with that character is just being ridiculously cheesy and over top, laughing like a ha 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 ha, typical kind of madman as he is. And there's some fun sequences and places with him kind of thing, with chopping of his arm and leg and stuff kind of thing and head. But most of his character is just a really kind of nasty kind of fantasy, I'd say the film goes for, is basically just straight up sexual assault rape on these women, and he's literally fucking these women to death. That I feel very disgusted, if I'm being absolutely honest. I didn't like it at all. I don't understand what the point of those sequences were, and I don't understand what an audience can really get from it. The way I see kind of sexual assault within movies is that there's a point to it, you're trying to say something by it, and the sequences that are involved in the film are really horrible, and they're really kind of in your face, in the sense of kind of they're not really shying away, and they're spending way too much time on these two very specific sequences in the film. And is this basically just a rape fantasy sequence for a viewer? Is that what the film's trying to go for? And if it is, like, can you see what I mean here, guys? You know, can you see what I'm trying to say? There's a lot of questionable aspects to the film, and now, I know a lot of Hong Kong cinema is exactly PC. A lot of the material within kind of Hong Kong cinema is definitely does range a little bit. You know, Jackie Chan, you know, he definitely sleeps with a lot of women in the film. It's a bit more cutesy, a bit more innocent in places. Sometimes he can get a bit too much overboard. Sammo Hung doesn't give a shit. He will punch a woman. He will degrade a woman kind of thing. He will call him a slut. He will call him a whore. He will straight up have an ending of a film where he basically rugby tackles a really woman to the ground. I think it just comes down to what your limit is and what you see as entertainment. Look, at the end of the day, everyone's entitled to freedom of expression, and everyone has different sense of comedy, different sense of taste. You know, a lot of the kind of the 80s or 90s kind of comedies or sex comedies, a lot of us won't exist today. You know, there's certain aspects, certain types of jokes, certain types of attitude you would have that are dated to some extent, some are not. The fact there's even a genre called the rape revenge genre, where a bunch of women get raped and they get revenge in a very nasty, violent ways. There is a genre for that. The way I feel about Robotrix, basically it has a kind of a charm, goofy side to it, which is why I did the trailer, because I think those aspects are really fun. I think it definitely could have leaned into more of the kind of playful kind of comedy nature and definitely take the piss more of the genre. Something I liked about, you know, Naked Killer is that it was very self-aware. It wasn't very PC. It definitely had aspects of the film which were like very questionable, but it definitely knew it was a comedy and definitely kind of played up some of the more kind of goofy aspects to the high level. I definitely think it raises a lot of questions. It definitely raises a lot of debate within these types of movies and what you find from them. Yeah, Robotrix, a trashy film with some trashy sequences. It has some moments for sure. I wouldn't recommend it. I definitely would not support the £25 purchase for sure. Go and watch Naked Killer. That definitely has the right level of kind of comedy, kind of action, and kind of category free goodness that you want from that type of movie. Yeah, Robotrix, complete trash. And last but not least, we have this Story of Ricky from the same director as Erotic Ghost Story, released in 1991. This film is based on a kind of, you know, manga comic, based on a kind of a character that has like what superhuman type of abilities type thing. You know, he channels his inner chi type of thing, and he basically can, you know, re-energize his body to ultra strength and kill people in very nasty, very violent fashion. It is super over the top. It's super cheesy. Super cheap in places, mainly set within a prison, of course backed up by Golden Harvest, and this has a bit more of an audience, a bit more respectable nature to it compared to some of the other two movies. Instead of going for kind of full frontal nudity, this goes for full straight up NC-17 violence, similar to kind of David Cronenberg's kind of era of kind of movies, in the sense of just eye gouging, head explosions kind of thing, just really kind of ludicrous, really over the top kind of violent sequences, body transformations, just a batshit crazy film. And I think it definitely is enjoyable, to say the least. I didn't think this film was particularly amazing. You know, I thought it was a fun ride. I enjoyed the film from start to finish. I think it definitely tries to have a story, which it doesn't come across very well because the performances are absolutely terrible. But I understood what the film was trying to do. It is based on a comic. It is trying to be, the focus of the film is being this hyper kind of chaos, adrenaline filled kind of chaotic movie with ultra violence and over the top bad guys and just nasty sequences, and that's what the film is. That's purely what the film is. When the film tries to add story, tries to add kind of drama or kind of like, you know, a love story in places for the main character, that's when the film loses me completely. Very similar to kind of Running Man or Death Race, that has these kind of very distant kind of futures where kind of prisoners are kind of used for entertainment or workforce labor or kind of being mistreated or no one cares. I do like my violence, I do like my craziness, but I like a little bit of something in there to kind of hold it all together kind of thing. You know, Upgrade, for instance, is a very low budget movie and it has a couple of very specific type of action sequences, but I'm invested in the story, I'm invested in the drama, I'm invested in the character, and when it does the kind of really over the top kind of, you know, crazy kind of robot style kind of action set pieces with the crazy music and crazy kind of visuals, I'm a lot more invested in that kind of 90-minute kind of production kind of thing. Story of Ricky, are very much a tongue-in-cheek, ultra-violent, practical effects, you know, glorious kind of movie that has a lot of fun with itself. Definitely has a wacky kind of concept, wacky villains, some crazy kind of dialogue in places. It definitely is the better out of the three, I would say, for sure. It definitely utilizes the kind of category 3 label to its kind of full extent, and I'm surprised there's not more movies like this written under that label. This seems to be the only one that I've noticed that's taken full advantage of that type of idea. It definitely has a good budget behind it with Golden Harvest backing this film up, because it definitely goes crazier towards the end for sure. Unfortunately, it's one of those films that I could just go ahead and watch the best sequences on YouTube. I don't really need to own the Blu-ray for it. I can just go and watch a compilation video or a supercut, and that can be the film. I don't really need to own the film. So that concludes my category 3 special video, guys, on Erotic Ghost Story, Robotrix and Story of Ricky. What are your thoughts and opinions on the film, guys? Please comment down below. Did you buy all 3 of the kind of special edition releases from 88 Films? Was it worth the 75 quid? I'm very curious. What do you think the next one would be from category 3 to release next? I'm still really hoping for a Naked Killer premium release. I think I definitely would own that for sure. But out of the ones that are released, which are the better ones? Please comment down. Which are the worst ones? Please comment down below. Hope you enjoyed watching this video, guys. Until next time, this is Anthony Reviews, signing out.